What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It's HorrorFan34, and welcome to another video. And welcome to another video where I do, showcase a random year and I show which films that I have from that particular year in my collection. Like I said before, these are not in any particular order for years, and I just kind of pick them out of a hat. So I figured, why not go with 1983 this time? I have a decent amount of stack of films right here that are from the year 1983, and I figured, you know what, why not share them with you guys? So let's not waste any more time here, and let's get to the films that I have from 1983. So the first one here, of course, is Videodrome. And like I said before, these are the films, like I do for every single year on Wikipedia. I look at the ones that came out beginning in January to December. So this is one of the first ones that came out in 1983 was Videodrome. Very solid, very fantastic. I say fantastic David Cronenberg film. It's my second favorite of his, behind The Fly. I mean, David Cronenberg is a director. I've always enjoyed him as a horror director. Love The Fly and this film and The Dead Zone and the Brood. I mean, I really do enjoy Videodrome quite a bit. You know, it stars James Woods, who's my favorite actor of all time. I love James Woods as an actor, whether it be in Cop, The Hard Way, John Carpenter's Vampires, John Q. I mean, and the list goes on and on. For Scary Movie 2, his role was really funny in that. So, and this is easily one of his best films, James Woods. And David Cronenberg did an excellent job directing this. Very weird, just really trippy movie. You can definitely tell it's a Cronenberg film. Next one here is 10 to Midnight. Very, very solid Charles Bronson film. Hopefully you don't hear that background in the noise. That's people downstairs. But 10 to Midnight, Charles Bronson film. Very, very, very solid movie. Directed by J. Lee Thompson. This is the same director that's worked with Charles Bronson a lot, on worked with him on Death Wish 4 and things like that. And J. Lee Thompson was also the same director that did Happy Birthday to Me, which is a very solid slasher. But this one, Charles Bronson is going after a serial killer, pretty much. Kind of like a serial killer that takes his clothes off and doesn't leave fingerprints behind. You can tell by the cover. You know what I mean? It's like Bronson is detective. Kind of like in the vein of kind of like Hero and the Terror, sort of, with Chuck Norris. Kind of like thing where it's kind of like an action hero going after a killer. Like that kind of a story. And it's kind of like the Michael Rooker going after Van Damme, who plays a serial killer. So it's like in that kind of vein, and I think Charles Bronson gives a very solid performance as, I want to get his, Leo Kessler, who's a LA cop who's trying to track down this killer. And also very well directed as well by J. Lee Thompson. Blue Thunder, excellent film with Roy Scheider. You also have Daniel Stern, Warren Oates, Candy Clark. Malcolm McDowell is your villain. I mean, Blue Thunder is basically Roy Scheider is a cop who gets chosen to test out this helicopter called Blue Thunder. He has a new partner, Daniel Stern. One thing leads to another. They hear something they weren't supposed to by these criminals, led by Malcolm McDowell, and then they get chased. And very well directed film by John Badham. Very solid movie, Blue Thunder. And it looks fantastic in HD as well. War Games, very solid movie here with Matthew Broderick. You also have Ali Sheedy. You have Dabney Coleman. I think you have William Sadler in this as well, in one of his early roles, I believe. But very solid movie. Also directed by John Badham, War Games. Same year that he actually had Blue Thunder. Trading Places, very, very funny movie with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. You also have Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Don Amici from Harry and the Hendersons. You also have Denholm Elliott, who was in Toy Soldiers. You also have Ralph Bellamy, who was in Amazon Women on the Moon. So really great cast, and directed by John Landis, same guy that did American Werewolf in London, Oscar with Stallone. Very solid director. This is easily one of his best films that he's directed. Trading Places is a just classic '80s comedy. Holding this up for Porky's 2, because of course these are of course the teen comedies kind of like thing, and Porky's 2 came out in 1983. I still think the first Porky's is the best, and the second one's pretty decent. Third one's all right, but definitely the first one is definitely the better one. But Porky's 2 was released in 1983. Here's one of my personal favorite films from the year 1983, up there with Videodrome and War Games and things like that. Or I'm sorry, Videodrome, Blue Thunder, and things like that. I mean, National Lampoon's Vacation, classic comedy with Chevy Chase. I mean, what more can you say about this film that has not been said before? I mean, if you haven't seen that, you're missing out on one of the best '80s comedies. Easy Money, another really fun comedy with Rodney Dangerfield and Joe Pesci. You also have Jennifer Jason Leigh. Pretty fun idea where Rodney Dangerfield gets left his inheritance, but there's a catch to it. He has to stop smoking, gambling, and drinking to get the inheritance from, I believe, his mother. Pretty funny idea, and I think him and Joe Pesci worked really, really well together. Speaking of David Cronenberg, I mentioned this already, but The Dead Zone, 1983 came out the same year as Videodrome. Another very solid Cronenberg film. Christopher Walken gives one of his best performances. You also have Martin Sheen. You have Tom Skerritt from Alien. I mean, like I said, based on the Stephen King novel, very solid flick. Of course, Sleepaway Camp, one of the best '80s slashers out there, has one of the best twist endings of all time. I mean, if you know the movie and you know that twist, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen Sleepaway Camp, but you haven't seen it before, you're in a surprise for that twist. I'll tell you that for sure. Of Unknown Origin. Here's an '83 film that not many people even know about. Basically, Peter Weller plays a guy. Yeah, Peter Weller, way before RoboCop. Peter Weller plays a guy who works for. He's he's a Wall Street executive, and he's trying to work on this project that if it goes really really well, he'll make even more money for his family. So his wife and his kid. His wife is actually Shannon Tweed, way before she was Miss Gene Simmons. Her and their son go out of the house while he's working, and then he starts hearing things in the house, and it turns out there's a giant rat that's harassing him, and he has a rat problem. So it's basically Peter Weller's kind of obsession with trying to catch this rat, and the rat keeps fucking with him, and when Peter Weller tries to go take a piss and the rat's in the toilet. Well, it starts off really small, scratching at the walls, and it keeps escalating things and escalating things and escalating things. When he tries to go take a pee, the rat's in the toilet, and, things like that. And it comes to the whole thing where he gets this outfit on here and just goes to town. And he also plays kind of a character who is kind of like a perfectionist. He doesn't want anybody touching anything in his house and things like that. But once this rat gives him problems and he just goes all to town, he just doesn't give a shit no more and starts wrecking the whole house trying to catch this rat. I'm not going to ruin everything about it, but definitely give it a look. And it's directed by the same guy that did Tombstone and Rambo 2, George P. Cosmatos. Christine, very solid film by John Carpenter. You have Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Robert Prosky, who was in Mrs. Doubtfire. You have Harry Dean Stanton. I feel like this is one of the John Carpenter films that doesn't get brought up that much. Definitely not as brought up as much as like things like Halloween or the Thing or things like that, or even like They Live. I feel like this is like one of the more forgotten John Carpenter films, but I love the movie. I think it's a solid flick. Here's a really fun comedy right here that I always enjoyed. DC Cab. Kind of like in the vein of Police Academy, but done with a cab company. And this was actually before Police Academy. So, and it's directed by Joel Schumacher, may he rest in peace. One of his first films that he ever did. And I tell you what, this has quite an interesting cast of people. First off, you have Mr. T, who by this time had did Rocky 3. You also have Adam Baldwin, who went on to be in Full Metal Jacket. You have Paul Rodriguez. You have Gary Busey. You have the Barbarian Brothers. You have Marsha Warfield from Night Court. And it's Bill Maher, the comedian. So quite an interesting cast of people. And like I said before, it's done in the vein of Police Academy, but done with taxis. It's a really fun movie. Really fun flick. And the last one that I have here from 1983 is a very underrated gem that I always loved, and that, of course, is Uncommon Valor. One of those films that was kind of like one of the first ideas of dealing with rescuing POWs in Vietnam, where Gene Hackman plays a guy who's a dad whose son went missing in Vietnam, and he gets his son's old team back together again with the help of Robert Stack. And they go into, I think, in Laos, I believe, to go search for any missing POWs and see if they can try to find Gene Hackman's son. And you have a fantastic cast. You have Gene Hackman, you have Fred Ward, you have Reb Brown, Randall Tex Cobb, Patrick Swayze, may he rest in peace, Tim Thomerson, who was in Fade to Black, Harold Sylvester, of course, Robert Stack. For people who don't know who Robert Stack is, he was the narrator of Unsolved Mysteries, which is one of my personal favorite shows. But that's all I got. That's all the films that I have from 1983. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.